Hi, everyone. So we're having a filter list maintenance panel again. We had it like 2 years ago, I guess, and who was a great success, but for some reason, last year we didn't have one, and it's cool that it's back. Let me quickly introduce our... Oh, do I have a clicker here? It's a different one. Do you work? Hey, means the people who shake the internet for millions or billions. I don't know. I'm not sure. So stop. So we have, all of them, right? So they presented. But anyway, I will do short introduction. So we have two OGs here. So we have Ryan and Peter. And it is not clear which list is...
No, it's very clear. Sorry.
He said Ryan first.
Okay.
I asked ChatGPT which one is older, and ChatGPT said that the maintainer of Peter Lowe's list claims that it's 28 years old, but there's no formal start date or something like that.
Wait, the word claims is emphasizing.
Okay, so we have two OGs. We have David, who is a long-time maintainer of Hungarian list, which is called Hufilter, right? Do you pronounce it correctly? We have Elizaveta, who works for AdGuard, and she was a maintainer. She still is basically a maintainer, or not as active because now she's a developer, but still. She was maintaining AdGuard's filters. And we have Sam, who is not a de facto maintainer, but is a very well-known person in our field. And you can meet a lot of Sam's work, like TrackerRadar, for instance. And a very knowledgeable person in this topic as well, but with a little bit different angle, so it will be interesting to learn from him. And what I would like to suggest, to make this panel a little bit more lively. So I will be going through a long list of questions. And I'm pretty sure that we will not have enough time to finish with all that. And because of that, what I suggest is whenever you have a question, please just raise your hand. Do not wait for the section to finish. If you have anything that I want to say, raise your hand. I will try to notice you, and we will try to give you time to ask your question. So that's it. Are you ready? Hey! Let's go. And the first section would be about ad filtering generally and how it is changing in the last years. And the first change, actually, we were talking about it for years, right? It was in development, etc. But, the difference now is that MV2 is really, half dead, or like more than a half dead, very dead. And now we have MV3. And major extensions all already are MV3 based in Chromium. So my question is, to the filters maintainers, how did it affect your work? So, who would like to start? Ryan.
Yeah, there's a few ways it will affect filter list authors, at least updating roles, or at least hitting with certain limits we've obviously already talked about. But we're trying to make the best of a good situation, a situation that we've been forced into. But there's also still parts of MV2 that we miss that we want in MV3, or at least more compatible for us as well. So we're hopeful that maybe MV2, or at least some of the parts of MV2 will be still implemented in MV3 at some stage. And I guess that's what at least most of the filter list authors are hoping for, that at least the missing bits, or at least some of the missing bits, can be implemented into MV3 again.
And on the scale from 0 to 10, from I'm okay to I am super sad. How sad are you about MP3?
6.5 out of 10.
6.5.
6.5. That's very precise.
Yeah, 6.5, 6.5.5.
What about the other guy? Fox, are you happy with MP3?
Not really, because when we write rules, we should always think about the new limitations. For example, we can't use wildcard to steal D, and luckily we have a domain expander, and we can handle this situation by our code when we build filter list. But yeah.
But again, on the scale from 0 to 10.
7.
Oh. Well,
It's not 10. David?
What I'm missing is the statistic reporting. So in MV2, we had a good debugging method, but in MV3 is much more trickier. So you should install an unplugged developer extension or run your old engine and make assumptions.
By the way, Ryan, do you use UBO Lite to troubleshoot the rules?
I don't.
So you just don't care how it...
I know we have the way I troubleshoot, because within Brave I have 2 levels of troubleshooting. I'll troubleshoot in Brave and troubleshoot because we can still install UBO Origin full. So I will test in both our own software as well as in UBO itself to see, especially like say if something breaks, we have to work out whether it's a browser issue, if it's our fault, or something else that's out of my control, which, like, for example, if it's an extension or a filter list issue. So at least for something like that, we still use UBO at least because its debug tools are still, well, it's hard to comprehend how important those tools are, especially in the MV2 rules. And I guess they haven't really moved those over to, or they can't move them over to sort of MV3 at the moment. So until that moves over, I can't really work with UBO Lite.
So basically you have to use a browser that still supports MV2 and an MV2 extension to troubleshoot, because MV3 is not there yet with debugging tools.
Yeah, I guess with the other guys, they probably had a similar situation that the debugging tools from MV2 had a lot to offer, and I guess they got a lot got pruned during the MV3. You get basic blocking, which is great, but if you're looking for anything slightly advanced, like network, looking at network requests and which certain features that you can turn off various filters automatically, sort of thing. Basically, there's a lot of tools that we do miss, and we can't use the MV3 version of it because it's just too limiting, and the web's too important not to have it.
And that was this question, actually. So, we kind of skip it. What would you like to be improved in MV3? Just, if you can, each of you who works with MV3 actually offers comment. What would you like to be improved? Anyone? Raise a hand.
Of course, this debugging. Also, it would be good if MV3 will be capable for CSS and JS rules, and also HTML. So before it's loaded to the renderer.
Well, could you elaborate on HTML? Because we have this on W3C group about the cosmetic rules, but about HTML, there are no requests, so it will be interesting to learn what you mean.
I mean, we have these HTML rules.
In AdGuard.
Yes, and in uBlock or Firefox.
Well,
It's not possible currently on Chrome. Never was possible even on MV2.
Is it realistic that we can bring an issue about changing HTML before it is evaluated by the browser? Some declarative API that allows us to remove a script before the browser starts evaluating the page?
MV4?
Got it.
But I think the point there is that we moved from a world with web request where we had complete flexibility, right? So we could decide how our filtering should work. In some cases, we could do this advanced HTML filtering in Firefox, for example. They had an API for that. And now we move to the MV3 world, is that the API is extremely descriptive about what you can match against. So we have to go and ask, we have to make the proposal to say, I want this feature, and then you have to wait until the browsers implement, and then you can release it. So it slows down innovation.
Do you feel how it affects you? Does it already affect us in a negative way? The fact that we can't innovate as fast as we could before.
So for DuckDuckGo, the perspective is a bit different because we're not using filter lists. We're building our own block lists. So we had different requirements for the blocking. But then we also have lots of other privacy features, and they were affected. So in the transition from MP2 to MP3, we had to drop a couple of protections from our privacy extension just because there wasn't a way to do that in the MP3 APIs. So it did change that, but we're already dealing with a reality where we have our extension, but we also have our own browsers. So we're already dealing with having to, something that works on Apple in WebView and something that works in Android WebView. So we already had to deal with that there are a myriad of different constraints depending which platform, and you have to find compatibility across them all if you want to have the feature everywhere. So there's already constraints on building these privacy and tracking protections across all platforms. This just added some more.
Was there the features that you couldn't implement in MD3? Was there an article, a W3C article, on bringing them back, or at least getting some feedback on why it was removed? Or
thinking of specific examples. So one was we had a feature which was referrer trimming. So we would trim back the referrer for third-party requests to limit the amount of information exposed. In practice, we essentially dropped that feature because browsers also, not long after that, standardized on a more restrictive policy that was adopted across the board. So it was, in that case, it was not really that relevant anymore as a protection because browsers standardized on a more privacy-preserving approach. So.
And do you feel that these limitations make people shift their priorities from traditional browser-based filtering to network filtering?
I think that effective filtering has always been a layered thing, a layered approach. I don't think there's any one silver bullet. I mean, maybe at certain periods, most people use uBlock Origin or AdBlock or something like that. But it's never 100% effective, especially for stuff that goes on behind the scenes. One of the reasons I would say that DNS-based filtering is useful is because it blocks stuff at a system level or network level. So, blocking your TV from tracking what you're watching is difficult to do without some kind of DNS blocking, or, I suppose you can do it with like a proxy in the middle or something like that. But you do need something network-based. So to do it properly, you need a layered approach. But I don't know if as MB3 shifted people towards it a lot. I actually had a look at when I got your questions, I went and had a look at my stats for my list. And I didn't see much of an increase in downloads for the list. So I don't think more people have necessarily gone over to it, but maybe we can't.
On the contrary, you should have seen a decrease actually, because MB3 kind of has all the rules packed inside of extension, so they don't have to go to your server to load the block list.
Yes, I suppose that's true. I was thinking maybe that there might be an increase because people would move to things like Pi-hole or DNS filtering things. I suppose they're already getting the list themselves, so I don't know.
Didn't see much change. No evidence that I can see, but
I still feel that blocking from the browser is the most effective for the web because you need that context. Like we had the discussions earlier about what's the partiness of a request is very important of understanding whether you can safely block it or not. What's maybe shifted is consumer understanding of ad blockers. Actually, at the bar last night, the barman was telling, when he asked about what this conference was about, he was telling me how Chrome is trying to stop him blocking ads because they're banning uBlock Origin. So I thought that was quite interesting that it's reached the layperson or the average ad blocker user that things have changed and it maybe affects the effectivity of the
Did you point a finger to Devlin? It's that guy.
it's his fault. There have been BBC articles about Chrome's change to Manifest v3, which is like, bonkers, really. But I think that Manifest v3 has raised awareness of ad blockers in general. So yeah, it's
That's it,
good
though,
effect.
regardless of, I guess we're finding that at least in EasyList, we're doing more network blocking than pretty much anything else now. It's cosmetics, for example, like with cosmetics, you already have a batch of sites already. You already got 95% covered. Yeah, you're doing really well, at least for the English side of things. But most additions to EasyList are now all network-based rules because that's where that's where the current war zone for us is. That there's a lot of sites that will just obviously spin up a lot of these ad servers without, they don't need cosmetics, they don't need to hide anything. That all they need to do is just load their scripts. So, and I guess in that respect, you can convert those network rules into DNS filtering as well. So,
Do you think that's related to Manifest v3?
no, it's more of a general of where things are going at the moment. So where people are, where ad companies are headed at the moment, where we're seeing more of network blocking being the main part of ad blocking now.
By the way, I haven't had a look recently, but is that EasyList split into domains and cosmetic rules?
Yes, there is.
Okay, nice. So
if you wanted to technically convert EasyList ad servers into its own list, into say a DNS filtering list, it would be possible. The only downside with DNS filtering is it's done by subdomains as well. So if there's a subdomain,
right,
then it won't quite work with DNS blocking, but I guess it would work for most.
Well, for the record, one of the things you can do with DNS blocking is set your local DNS as being authoritative for a domain. Right. So any request for that domain will get routed there, and you can.
Yes, that can work then.
Yeah.
Right,
and you can set it as wildcards and whatever.
Yeah, it's a good option, yeah. But essentially, we try to be as compatible as possible, so you could technically convert our networking rules into DNS rules. It's side obviously from the MV3 stuff, but that's where we see the industry headed, and still being headed at the moment, is that network rules, network filtering is pretty much king at the moment, and that's where ad companies are.
By the way, do you see an increase in the numbers of issues on in EasyList repo, or it's not just about EasyList. Do you see in your respective repositories, do you see an increase of the number of issues due to shortcomings of MV3? Kind of people coming at you because uBlock Origin Lite doesn't block something, and they open an issue, and
Okay, so probably more so if you roll out a change and you're waiting for the extension to update, or at least update quick enough, because if you make a change, it could take a while. Like for MV2, it's often a lot quicker to get said change, but with MV3, it could take a while. And you wonder, when I make a change to GitHub, how long will that change take to propagate to another extension because the sections take a lot more time now with MV3. And I guess for us, ideally, we want them to pull the updates as soon as possible, whether it be differential updates or whatever, but just pull it sooner than later because at the moment, it's probably more an extension issue rather than an MV3 issue. But we just want for the consumer to have more updates sooner so we can roll out a fix and, within an hour it will be on everyone's computers. As good as EV2 is, that would be nice.
Do you see any negative impacts caused by the shortcomings in terms of filtering quality?
Well, yes, I noticed the situation when a user can reopen the issue because he waits for the rules. And in this case, we suggest to add rules in user rules because, it takes time to deliver rules now, this extension. So, of course, it takes time for the developer to notice it and to answer again.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to the next section. No questions. And the second one is
about filter lists. So we're talking about with filter list maintainers, and one of the questions, which is also, by the way, caused by MV3 limitations on the number of rules, is how do you fight the filter list bloat? How do you decide what's good enough to be in the list and what should be removed?
For myself,
By the way,
by the way,
how do you do that?
how do I do that? I go back to my policy. It starts with the policy for me. I was saying to Tina earlier that I think that if you get a decent policy that kind of defines what you include and what shouldn't be included, then you can always fall back to that. I'm a bit different from a lot of some of the filter lists out there because it's just me and I don't really have to. I'm the only person that decides what goes in it, but I have my own rules, which I published. I had to revise them a little bit. I was, again, telling Tina, so the rule used to be any domain which is specifically used for ads or trackers. And then I found that some people were putting non-ad stuff or non-tracker content on those domains to kind of get around that rule. So I revised it to be any domain which is primarily used for ads or trackers. And it's my evaluation as well. But that's what I come back to. And if someone argues with me about it, I make an evaluation and then figure out whether it should go on or not.
But how do you deal with bloat, with dead domains, with something with effectively dead rules?
Well, for my list, I have a script that runs once a week. It does a check for a bunch of different DNS records, A, quad A, NS, etc. And if it fails any of those checks, then it gets hidden. And if it fails them 6 weeks in a row, then they get deleted. That's it. It's all automatic. So, yeah. That's why there's only 3,500 domain entries on my list, and because I'm lazy and don't do much proactive research. But, yeah.
Yeah, so also for us, because of the way we build our block list, it kind of effectively prevents bloat. So what we do is, so for this Tracker Radar project, we crawl upwards of 100,000 sites every 2 weeks now. And that generates a data set which says these are all of the pages that were loaded and what requests they made and what APIs they used. And then we apply a criteria on top of that to look for, we're explicitly looking for tracking methods, not ads. But we say, like, if it's tracking, then it gets put in this block list. And that's done fresh every time we have a crawl. So it's effectively always, like, anything dead is just removed because it's not been seen in the crawl. And then the size is also constrained. So I think I wrote it down. We have about 2,900 tracker domains, and that converts into under 5,000 rules, blocking rules. So this is very handy that it means we don't really have a bloat problem, and we can stay within dynamic rules. We don't even ship static rules for MV3. Saying that said, we do hit some limits with this rule, so particularly when you include CNAME blocking. So when doing on iOS, using content blocking rules, once you start putting like all of the different CNAMEs for domains in explicitly, then you start to hit constraints there. So the list takes a long time to compile still. So sometimes we have to make decisions about whether we cut some of those out if they're not particularly significant. But generally, I don't think we have the same bloat problem that other filter lists has, because our list is just much smaller.
I was saying another thing about DNS-level blocking is that you can use wildcards, and you can put another part of my policy is that I put the highest part of a domain in there. So instead of ads.uk.doubleclick.net, add2.uk.doubleclick.net, I just put doubleclick.net. So it means you can skip having, it's not like a host file where you have to have every individual actual host name in it. So it's a benefit to avoid bloat. That's why DNS blocking is the best.
Sorry, I just want to add the half Hungarian filter handles this issue. I think we don't have any proper solution for this. Basically, I tried two things in the Hungarian filter. First is because it's just a language-specific filter. I want to avoid redundant rules compared to the general filter lists like EasyList. The second is periodically I check for dead domains. There is a dead domains linter. I mentioned it in the last year's conference, and it's based on the AdGuard DNS, and checks if the domain has a hit in the last day, and if it's not, it probably that it's not works so well for small filter lists, especially for Hungarian domains. The other idea is always coming back is creating some utility tool which opens the site, a Puppeteer, for example, and checks the content. But my biggest problem with this approach is it's hard to know which part of the site you should open. For example, in news portals, we usually add rules for the article page, so it's not enough to open the main site. So you should have a test link or a set of kit test links, but it's also causing some bloat in the puka source. So I think the thing is also helps a lot is the hit stacks in AdGuard, for example, if the user enables the statistics.
Rainer, what do you do? Because I know that you clean it up pretty often, but how exactly you decide which rule is dead and which is not?
A lot of Git work to find out what's. I guess okay. So we have some issues with cleanups because, say, for a generic cosmetic, because EasyList is English only list, but it's also sort of used in combination with other regional lists, and often they rely on EasyList generic rules. So if there's, say, for example, it was a rule that was more regional based, but not English, do we remove it? Do we keep it for the sake of satisfying our regional list or not? That's one question, and whether it's important enough to drop it or not, or siphon it off to a regional list. We do run tools for a lot of the ad servers, which is at the moment the largest part of our list. We run tools often to clean it up and remove dead ad servers. I guess there's another problem there is that we can remove too much and hit a few limits when we start removing too much. So MV2 we could just remove it without issue, but now obviously we have to be a bit more considerate when removing large amounts of lines. But we do try and clean up. I guess we're still in the phase of trying to remove some generic cosmetics and moving to more specific cosmetics, because a lot of the generics or generic blocking rules as well are often used as bait. So we're trying to move away from generic cosmetics and generic blocking rules, because they're often an easy way of baiting EasyList. And if we can just remove some of at least start off with the bait rules, get rid of those, and then go backwards and see which rules we need and which ones we should keep. I'm not sure if there's a way to automate that and make it automate in a reliable way as well, so we know that we should keep it or not keep it. Because, as I said, we are also, should we keep it because of a regional list, for example, or should we let the regional list look after it? That's something we still haven't thought how we can plan for that. But yeah, I think with the cleanups, we don't want to bloat the EasyList. That's the last thing we don't want to do. But we don't want to make it ineffective as well. So there's a fine line to being we try to make it as effective as possible with the least amount of rules. And I guess there is the fine line there is that we're trying to navigate that, make EasyList as effective as possible without removing too much.
But I need help from people and being the microphone. There are many questions.
Okay, so like last year, AdGuard, you show a tool actually to clean up, so as I remember, and it also may be helpful for users like when they try to download lists, and especially because they have a lot of lists and sometimes they try to click everything, like the whole, like everything that we give them. But my question was actually you're talking about how you decided to block something, but how you decide to whitelist the website. So
Sorry, what was the question?
Like how you decide which website to whitelist, not to block, but
So if there's to unblock. Okay, so if there is a problem on a website, we would have to. Okay, so we first have to replicate the issue. We won't take someone's word for it that we're breaking their site. At least, if I can't replicate it, I'll need to at least have another list author to at least tell me that there is a problem there, because there's too many bad actors will tell us we're breaking said site, and it's just all they want to do is remove their traffic or whatever, because some people aren't trustworthy, is what I'm saying, and we have to have some level of trust, and between the filter list authors, we'll get someone to test it. And if it's the case, for example, a site needs Google Tag Manager to run, then we'll fix it, because it's something that needs to be fixed. It's something that has to happen. Also, the fact that Google Tag Manager is about at least 2 scripts, or possibly more, but we'll only allow the one part that needs to and nothing more. So we're not going to just generally say we're going to give this site Google Tag Manager completely. We'll only allow the script that needs to work and nothing more, nothing less. So there's no complete, we'll give them full reign of your tracking data. But for example, if they needed, if it broke completely, then we've got really no choice but to do whatever it needs to do to fix the site, I guess. There's no reason. Some of the resource replacements, especially like, for example, with Google Tag Manager and other scripts used, aren't the best. Like, they're not up to date as much.
Do you think? Sorry, jump in. Do you think that people deliberately tie functionality of the site to trackers? Specifically to
So for example, you go to a shopping site and you click on an item you want to buy. Often they'll have a Google tag attached to the quantity, the the color and then wonder why. And sometimes that will work fine if you block Google Tag Manager, but sometimes it's so dependent, the site is so locked into that script that if it's blocked, it might not toggle said change for you. And then we had forced change on some sites where you say your site is badly coded, you need to fix it because this is why it's broken. And sometimes we do have the ability to force change on the site to say that it seems that you've designed this site intentionally to break users' ad block. So we'll ask them kindly to remove their, or at least not move, if they still want Google Tag Manager, that's great, but just remove the absolute requirement that it needs to run.
This is also the classic way to implement an ad block wall as well, is to just do a fetch to an ad domain that you expect to be on most block lists and then test for failure. And if it's failed, there's ad block.
Let me rephrase a little bit because it means that you wait for some signal, then you just add it to unblock list or whitelist or whatever. Okay, so is there any possibility, let's say, that some kind of websites, like governmental, for example, can be unblocked automatically? Like, what do you think about such kind of issues?
What do you mean by unblocked automatically?
Okay, because there is some kind of option that we, for example, give from a feedback from some governmental websites that they don't provide any ads, any not tracking things about like advertisement, banners, etc. So, for example, they said us that we can unblock all gov domains automatically or something like that. What do you think about?
It's true. I guess we go by domain specific, so you can say specific domains, but you can't say all golf domains, for example, or shopping sites, because I guess anything could technically be a golf site or shopping site, because it's in two general terms. It could be any site, could be labeled any site. It could be named anything, basically. So we do a per site basis. So if it was a specific site, because it's not going to act the same, I guess. It's like one site is not going to act similar to another site, assuming they're not using the same CMS, for example. But because Google Tag Manager doesn't work on one site, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to act in the same way as well.
But what would you do if the UK government messaged you and said, yeah, it's all right, you don't need to worry about gov.uk. We're fine, we're not doing anything bad.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
But it comes down to trust, because it doesn't take much just to look at the network request and say, we have everyone has here his tools to take a look at the network request and see what's been loaded.
For the whole of gov.uk, I mean,
we do. I guess, for example, we will do per subdomain if it's
would you?
Yeah, I would do per subdomain. I mean, what I'm saying is that you look at per sub to see which of the. For sometimes you go to each subdomain and each script. There's a different script for each subdomain, so you can't generalize that because all of .gov.uk is going to act the same way. When you go to another subdomain, you'll have a whole lot of different trackers.
Yeah.
So in theory, if it was like a specific subdomain, we could just say, hey, we'll fix a subdomain, but not allow it to go for the entire gov.go.uk, for example. So you can do per subdomain if it's a subdomain issue. But it's not globally. I guess we'll try and avoid globally because obviously that's overreaching.
If I may jump in quickly, so EasyList, the most basic list for all workers, and everyone uses it in this or that way. And so if you unblock anything, you will affect
the other lists, right? So if you unblock GovUK, so you will unblock all the trackers there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice if ad blockers provided you an option with some kind, an option to make an exception rule scoped to EasyList, kind of a whitelist rule, but it only disables your EasyList blocks, but not every other filter.
Isn't that your?
No, we don't do it. We don't provide it. We would, but I'm thinking about like maybe will it be useful if we did provide such an option?
I mean, if there's a problem, if someone has a problem with a site, surely it will affect other people's as well. Like if you have a problem with some part of a website, to disable it for yourself, you're not effectively doing a lot apart from fixing it for yourself. And no doubt the next person will have the same problem. And I guess the idea is that if we can fix it for everybody, not just yourself.
My idea is you fix it.
Yeah.
You fix it by allow listing the website in EasyList, and it kind of, but it only unblocks requests that were previously blocked by EasyList. It kind of, what if it only does that? And for instance, Easy Privacy continues to work as it worked before, so it continues blocking tracking. So would it be useful to you? Would you use such a scoped white allow listing?
I would have to see it in action, to be fair. I'd have to see how well something like that would work and whether it would be in the best interest of the end user. Not just the best interest in...
the way I see it is that it will be an option for you, so that you write an allow list rule and add a modifier, something like scoped to EasyList, and you decide how to scope it. So that, because allow list rules are very dangerous, right? So we don't like allowing things. We are blockers. And I will always thinking about how to limit the amount of allowed things.
Yeah, I understand, because we do try and prune some of the allow lists, because last thing you want to do is have all these scripts running and forever allow lists, I guess, and we're trying to limit the amount. So we do evaluate them occasionally, go through them, see if we can remove any old rules, and sometimes we get them wrong because they're still covered, and others are just dead domains, of which we'll obviously remove dead domains as they're being allowed list or not. But I'd have to see your concept in action to make a firm comment. But at the moment, if we fix a site, we want to fit, it would be obviously scope for EasyList regardless. You can, I guess, in some ways you can, in some extensions you can just disable EasyList to keep Easy Privacy running. That's possible. But it depends on the extension or it depends on the browser or whatever. But for the most part, we want as much feedback as possible to avoid people disabling in the first place. That's the idea, is we don't want people disabling lists anyway. We want people to browse the web and just have it work. And I guess that's the idea, is that we don't, if there's breakage, we need to know about it, so at least that fixes it for the other 99%.
Anton? Yeah, so I guess I'm curious what all of your thoughts are on, I feel the tooling for filterless maintainers has been evolving over the last 2 years, whether that's things like linting or things like network scanners or other things like that. So I'm curious if any of you have like a dream tool that you've been imagining that you wish you'd add that would help you with your filterless maintenance tests.
Yes. Sorry, I absolutely do have one. I would like an LLM, a model that has been trained on DNS data, that can passively look at outgoing DNS data and then say, this looks like a tracker. And I think it could work based on contextual DNS data as well. So if you go to, example.com, and then you go to example.net, and you see the same kind of queries going out at the same rates with the same, DNS, it just looks the same to a model, then it can go, this is probably a tracker. And then if that's just run in the background and just analyzed my data, I think it would probably pick up loads of things which people just don't know about. So that's my little dream. I should probably build it, I mean, but yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Any? Okay, no.
Yeah, so a bit of a step back. So you mentioned that you did reach out to websites. I'm just curious what your experience has been reaching out to actual websites, and like, do they respond? And do you have any tips on how to do it effectively?
Often they will create issue reports, or at least prod us or other repos on it to prod us, and then we go down the path of what's broken and how best to fix it. So it's not the first time that sites have complained that, say, we're overblocking, for example. It's like, for example, analytics is key for a lot of websites for doing basic things. So if they can send through a GitHub request or an email even, I guess, but most will do a GitHub request and they'll show what issues they're having, and we'll tell them, this is X and Y that's causing it. I guess we're trying to avoid the quick and dirty, let's just allow this the scripts, and if we can at least get them to fix the site, it means that's less work for us, and it will mean that it'll work for everyone else regardless of the list, because if they, say for example, like with Google Tag Manager, for example, if they fix their issue, it means that at least it will work for other lists as well, not just EasyList, but other lists as well. So,
See. Okay. So basically, they come to you first.
they normally come to us first.
You already have a channel.
We don't normally reach out because mostly it's mainly user driven. If we'll basically wait for either a user or the company that will say, hey, there's a problem with our website, and then we'll go from there, work out a resolution that's happy for us as well as for them.
And we've actually had some success reaching out, not so much in the context of network filtering, but with other privacy protections. So one thing that works quite well is GPC. So particularly California-based companies, if you have some breakage that is caused by setting the GPC signal, then we have like an email template we send to the data privacy contact, and that gets resolved pretty quickly. So I think that works pretty well. In other cases, we've had generally like web compat issues because our browsers are all like slightly different from the mainstream ones. And for example, I think OpenAI had some issue with their accounts or data export things and we had some issues with our browsers, and we actually just like wrote in a ticket and they eventually fixed it. So I was also surprised.
You have exceptions for GPC as well. Like there'll be some sites that haven't played ball with GPC, and you'll have like a fix to counter any GPC issues.
Yeah, but yeah. So what we usually do initially is so we see the breakage with GPC. We do a site-specific exception so that users are not encountering the breakage, but then we'll send off that email, and then the sites will often get back, say, okay, we've resolved the issue, and then you can remove the exception afterwards.
I've had a few experiences with, because in my experience, sometimes they're doing it sort of semi-maliciously, like they're tying the functionality to tracking stuff because they know they want to try and force an allow list rule or an unbreak rule. But a lot of the time it's just accidental. People are trying A/B testing, especially with Optimizely. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but a common way to use Optimizely is to cname www.yoursite to optimizely.com, and it just redirects all traffic through them, and then they could do A/B tests. But because I have optimizely.com on my list, it breaks everything. And so people have contacted me saying, oh, why isn't our site working? It says because of this, and I say, well, because Optimizely is a tracker. And then they change it, mostly. But it's up to them at that point, because I think a lot of times people don't realize what Optimizely is doing and what kind of data it's getting and their privacy policy and all sorts of things. So it's interesting to have that conversation and make them aware of what's going on.
the next question. How do you measure effectiveness of your, how or do you actually measure effectiveness of your lead? To put it simpler, do you think that your list is comprehensive enough and is good?
Yes. So one thing we actually do is compare to community filter lists. So yeah, the hypothesis is that if we compare like what we block to what, for example, the default uBlock origin setup is, it might identify gaps. Like, for example, if some tracker is quite good at hiding from our crawler and then doesn't appear in our data, so we don't get those block rules. So we've done that. So I recently ran some data on this. So a recent crawl, I think we had about 32 million URLs from the collected from the crawl, and then I basically ran the blocking algorithm for both and compared it. And 11 million of those requests were blocked by both. And then there was 1 million each side, so 1 million only blocked by uBlock origin, 1 million only blocked by us. And this comes a bit down to the kind of the blocking policy that we're just targeting trackers, and we have a same entity policy that we don't block requests of the same entity within a particular site. But yeah, this is kind of what we can do on a periodic basis to kind of validate that, you know, we're not missing anything obvious in our block list.
And other folks?
Okay, so
Is your list good, Ryan?
it could be. I think
It's just easy.
it's
not good
It could
list.
always be better. It could always be better. I mean, as I said previously, most of our blocks are now less site specific and more general and networking terms. So the effectiveness is as good as in your most recent rules for us. So if your most recent rule is, blocking various pop-ups, that's great. But the fact is that most of the web is currently moving to these, ad servers. So I guess what I'm saying is that site-specific rules are probably becoming less important for us, and more important is going to be the ad servers. And I guess as long as we're covering a lot of these sites, it's becoming more effective now because of it. It's just if you go into like a streaming site, a myriad of ad servers will just.
Is the number of complaints an important signal or not for you?
We do. Occasionally, we obviously get complaints on either our recent commit, maybe we've changed, or we get blamed for somebody else's commit. For example, in Brave, we'll get a complaint and people blame the browser, but it's actually somewhere upstream, be it a regional list, be it uBlock origin, one of maybe uBlock origin's list, had an overreaching filter, and we'll just coordinate with whoever to say, here's something we need to get fixed ASAP. Let's fix it. And I guess there's always a trust value as well. So as long as we are, as a person, outline what the problem is, show them a problem and make a fix happen as soon as possible. So I think even like, for example, with us as well as UBO, we're trying to make sure that lists are as effective as possible, and remove dead rules where we can, because there's no reason to have rules that no longer exist if the domain is gone or they've changed the look and style of the website as well.
I think we can also think about effectiveness on the point that we don't break much sites. For example, we want to add network rule and block all ad and trackers on it, but this API can contain legal websites, and on this point we should think about quality of the rules that we make in filters and how long rules exist in filter. And also, I think that if we don't have issues that reopens for the one websites, the filter list can be considered as effective because ads and trackers always be, and we can't 100% have one person coverage. Yeah.
And with Hufilter is a little bit smaller, right? So you don't have as much feedback as Ryan or AdGuard filters, for instance. How do you understand that it's code that it blocks everything?
Actually, I would split this question to two parts. First is, have rules quality sufficient? For example, when I try to avoid regular expressions or I try to avoid extended CSS, it's not needed. The second one is how effective the list when you use it. And it's hard to measure in the case of Hungarian filter because we just extend EasyList and some big filter lists, and we use it together with them. So it's hard to say. It's done absolutely manually for the most popular sites, so they are working correctly and I think efficiently. But I don't have any numbers for it.
I think it's hard to measure, right? Like it's really hard to measure if you're looking at, unless you start going through various websites, just going like the top 10K or 100K to find whether your list is hitting the right metrics, like finding that you got coverage or not.
I think the talk by Tina Opera was really interesting in that regard. I think comparing with the ad blocker enabled and without, and running an LLM, it was really interesting.
Yeah, by the way.
You could have questions. We don't have questions. We're going on.
Dealing with broken websites, I guess we kind of covered it already.
Yeah.
So this would be a duplicate. Let's just skip it. And just a general question. Do you feel that the user expectations are changing with time? It's not just about this year versus previous year. It's like, you're doing this for years. Do you feel that there is any change that is happening? Did the user do they expect you to do more or more than before or less than before? What do you think about your user?
For myself, a lot of the people who use my list are more sort of technically savvy because DNS is a bit more complicated. But there's a lot of end users who are, I think in general, more people understand what they're being protected against when it comes to trackers these days. There's a lot of massive data breaches that have happened. There's a lot of like regulatory things that are coming into place where people are talking about personal data. The UK age verification stuff is happening everywhere actually. But so it's in the mainstream media, and people are talking about it. My mum's talking about this kind of thing and asking me questions about it. So I think that kind of visibility is really useful, because when someone sees something broken and you say, oh, it's because it's blocking a tracker, they're like, oh, okay. And I would say it's probably more acceptable now.
But if it breaks the site though, what happens then? Like if she was shopping and she wanted to buy a Christmas present for you.
That's okay. That's a classic example with my list is that I include bounce trackers. So people are reading newsletters, they click on a link. Carol from my talk earlier, she's trying to get to a community site, and it's going to rs6.net, and it breaks. But when I explained it to her, she was more accepting about it, and I think that's more common now. People would get angry with me before, and more often, I would say. I don't have the data to back this up. It's really just a feeling, but I think that's more the case.
Yeah, I'd also say like it's just a feeling, but I don't think user expectations are changing that much, but it's getting a bit harder to meet them because sites are getting more aggressive in the tactics to come back. So we talk about cookie pop-ups. You get in these pay or okay walls. So they're popping up and saying you must accept or pay to access this website. There's more paywalls, which are blocking users from using the web. And then you have websites like YouTube, which are really like pushing back hard against ad blockers. So yeah, you're getting these events coming when YouTube changes something. People are getting ads again, and you get this big influx of user complaints or uninstalls because they're seeing that this battle is playing out.
Anyone? Let's go.
Do I have a question?
Oh, I have a question.
Question. Yeah, thank you. In terms of user expectations, do you think the ad blocking extensions itself should do a better job, or at least try and do a better job of explaining when the user is blocked from reaching a page? If not just for the user, then perhaps maybe just for your own peace of mind and the volume of your inbox or some of your inboxes.
Yeah.
Just a quick question, Andres. Do you mean that the ad blocker extension or an ad blocker should explain what an ad block wall is, or what a bounce tracking is? So which kind of blocks we should explain?
I guess either and any. I'm not sure I would define it on that level, more from a user experience side. So if the user is clicking a link or trying to reach a website, however they are trying to get to that website, and the browser is not delivering that website as they are expecting, but something else is happening, for example, the ad blocker doing something there. I mean, it's not about hiding ads, right? But like, if you actually can't get to the website, like, what was her name? Carol, yeah. There might be an opportunity there to say, hey, like, this was blocked for that reason. So with this context, and this is how you might get around it, with more than just always trust this site or whatever you block origin says.
We get a few interesting emails, but that block screen in particular for uBlock Origin is there have been attempts to redesign it before, but it's a UX problem, and I don't think there's any super good solution. Really, it's a tough problem to solve. But humans are going to ignore what's on the screen in front of them, like some of the time. So I don't think there's a perfect solution, but maybe it could be a bit better.
So for us, I think this mostly comes up in the context of breakage. So the user is visiting the page and trying to understand why they can't complete the action they want to do, and we're trying. So the way we respond to breakage is from user reports. So we have a UI in the browser where you can say like something's broken, and you can send us a message, and then we can update the rules accordingly. And we've experimented with a few different things there of like figuring out when to like try to help the user. So try to detect some issues. So you might see like a succession of reloads, and then you pop up something and say like, is something broken? Do you want to try turning off blocking and see if it fixes it? And then if it does, then please report so we can update those. So we tried a few of those approaches, and it does increase the number of reports that we get coming in, which then help us triage those issues.
I think the panel can be used better, but like for example, if a bad pop-up was initiated, you'd get the same pop-up as if you had that same uBlock Origin pop-up. So basically that pop-up is reused elsewhere for other reasons, like, non-legit sites that will launch a pop-up. If it's blocked, you'll get the same warning, I guess. And I guess the only true fix would be to differentiate the the reason for the pop-up. So if somehow tag that this is not something you want to allow versus a balance manager, for example, because from the outset it would look the same for a user. If they're not none the wiser, I guess, then it has to be some way of differentiating the oh no.
Are we good?
We're good. It's over.
6 o'clock.
Really?
Dinner time.
Please continue.
So yeah, what I'm saying is that there needs to be a way of tagging those for the user. So if there's a way of saying to the user, this is something you shouldn't allow, even though you're getting the same pop-up as something else, we need some way how tag it. This is bad and this is good for, say, a bounce tracker, for example.
I started doing that recently, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So I've
Okay.
got 2 options on my list. One is to say only trackers and one with no trackers. And the way it works is that I put an actual, it's terrible. Please nobody ever look at my code. But I put an actual comment in the entry in the database and it says track. And so I just either include only those or exclude them. But I've been adding comments for bounce trackers so that I can because there's such a common thing that people really want to get to. But it's also to do with like metadata for the entry.
With that said, though, it has to be up to the extension author as well to implement something that will highlight this is a bounce tracker versus a standard pop-up, for example. So it also it's on the extension author to also implement this as well. So they can show the user that this is something that you should allow if you want the bounce tracker to go through. Still give the option, but implement it.
We're getting gently into the final.
But we have time for one more question, right? One. Who will be the person that asked the last question on this summit?
Yeah, Andrey's best.
Anyone? No? Like, in general, not on this topic, just what you want to ask the around that day. Okay? Koringo?
Are gonna keep the even expanded trusted scripter shuttle? I feel like most of them are really still considered as a language scriptless, the language JavaScript snippets. Are we doing like to use more scripted role? Because it really makes my device heavier. And most of my devices are mobile. That means you care about my very kind.
So the question is, do we need to extend the list of trusted scriptlets?
Yeah, and do you have any plans and
and usage of them in the list?
Yeah.
No. I see.
An EasyList we don't. We do have some AirBot Plus trust scriptlets, but ideally we'd want to cover, I guess, more extensions rather than just AirBot Plus, so we could at least cover more people. So at the moment, yeah, it is pretty basic, and I guess we kept it for a reason to keep it basic, so people can install their favorite extension, then I'll add their scriptlets. But I can see why we should implement it in our own lists as well, because it is becoming more important, I guess, is what I'm saying. It's one of those things we should implement more going forward. It's just working through policies and what we should and shouldn't block.
I think he's asking to remove it because it makes things heavier.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to remove script? Okay. Yeah. Oh, all right. Okay, I got that wrong. We don't have that many scriptlets, to be fair. Most of our, I guess, predominantly most of our list is network-based rules now. There are obviously cosmetics. Cosmetics and network rules are probably the most, I'll say heavy, but the part of EasyList will be cosmetics and network rules. The amount of scriptlets, at least for us, is minor compared to other lists. If we include like UVO, for example, they're obviously everything's mostly is just scriptlets, and we talk to them about moving some of their stuff into EasyList. Like anything that we can cover, like ad servers or specific roles or specific cosmetics, we can take over, and for them they'll take care of the scriptlets. But for EasyList in general, we don't have that many scriptlets involved at the moment anyway. I mean, as I said, it would be nice to cover more if we can in the future. If it just comes down to policy as well, because what we cover is the same as we cover with standard cosmetics or such. So something we can work on.
We're starting to get hinted not as gently as before.
Do you have a final question?
Oh, that was probably it. But anyways, that's it. We need to wrap up. It was pleasure to have you all on the stage. And well, I hope we will have another panel next time.
Finish this panel off because we only got to section 2.
Yeah, well, we had quite a few questions, to be honest, and a lot coming.
So next year we can get you finish this panel off, please.
These are for the next year. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.